Hey, what's up? It's Comic 95, the Savior. So, a lot of people really think that Japanese people are like just super healthy, health freaks or nuts. You see them walking around, they're wearing masks, everyone seems to be thin, and you're like, how does Japan do it? So you probably bash and make fun of your country. My home country being America, even with my own race, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, very common amongst black people and Americans in general. And I would even go as far to say most Westerners. However, in Japan, it seems as though everyone is so fit, so healthy, so thin. However, for some odd reason, people have, run with this, and so have the Japanese, making up their own reasons and excuses for why people here are so healthy. Well, personally, after having been in Japan for almost 2 years, I have lost a significant amount of weight. I believe I've lost about maybe 50 or 60 pounds since I've been here. I feel like a whole new person. However, it is not because I am Japanese. I am not. But instead, it is a matter of adapting or adopting somewhat of their lifestyle, which in general is not so healthy. So, first things first, the main reason why Japanese people are unhealthy overall is because are healthy is because they're unhealthy. Japanese people practice ridiculous, or take on ridiculous regimes or routines and diets in order to maintain their weight and or lose their weight. You will go to stores and see commercials with women and men who are seriously not overweight at all or just a few pounds over, and they'll have all these ridiculous commercials showing them, slug around and not be able to do basic stuff like sit up out of bed and, put on pants, like really basic stuff. And I'm thinking like, that chick weighs the same amount that I do right now. So anyway, they're very big on dieting. I have gone on dates with guys in which they gave me really mixed signals by American standards, where the guy, my ex, for example, we would go out to eat and he would just treat me, and I would be like, okay, if you weren't hungry, I wouldn't have suggested that we go to a restaurant. We could have just played darts. And he'd be like, no, I want to watch you eat like you eat. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of creepy, but okay. And so I would like try to share with him, and he'd be like, no, like I'm on a diet. And so to me, it's like, oh, this guy isn't interested in me. Like, I don't understand, like, why would you plan to go on a date with me and then not eat with me? And so I thought that this was just, my man, but I dated other guys, and they would do the same thing. Also, if you go out to eat something really fattening, whether it's a guy or a girl, I notice it's more with men, they will sometimes avoid eating or drinking certain parts of the meal, so maybe they won't eat, or drink the soup because it has a lot of salt and stuff in it, and sodium. Or after you have a really fattening meal, they might, have some type of, there's this weird pop here that for some dumb reason my boyfriend included. They believe that it helps you to lose weight if you drink it immediately after having a really fatty meal, which I do not believe, but again, cultural difference. I have no idea who started this, but it's basically the equivalent of being in America and believing that having a Diet Coke after, having barbecue is going to keep you from getting a lot of the fat from eating that barbecue. Like, I don't understand the concept of this, but this is the type of stuff that they do when they do have, fattening meals, etc. They will oftentimes avoid eating, the previous meal, the meal before, if they know they're going to go out and eat something, really big and massive later. Also, keep in mind that Japanese people tend to skip breakfast. I think most people here generally do not eat legitimate breakfast. Most people here instead for breakfast will have something small. So normally, just a serving of natto, or they will, eat a little bit of rice, or more commonly for the guys that I've dated and the girls that I'm friends with, they normally just have a piece of breakfast bread, so to speak. So this is like a slice of raisin bread, a croissant, something really small that your stomach is definitely going to be growling, an hour later. But this is what people generally tend to have. As for lunch, having something, like a bento, etc., is actually kind of high in calories, despite what a lot of people think. But all of the stuff balances out because most Japanese people get to and from work and school by riding their bicycle, for 30, 40 minutes a day, which is exercise. Not to mention you're walking to and from the station, walking inside of these massive stations. Train stations here are ridiculously huge. If you've ever been to Umeda Station, Shinjuku Station, Kyoto Station, any of the major stations, if you've ever been there, they are gigantic. And not just those stations, even the smaller stations along the way, just even getting to the station is one thing, but once you actually are inside, you generally have to walk several minutes to make it, down the stairs. There's normally like 3 or 4 flights of stairs, down the escalators, and then actually walking to, whichever car you want to be on at the actual platform. And then you have to do it on your way back, and if you have transfers, it gets really crazy. You can easily reach 10,000 steps a day here, just going to work. Very easy to achieve that. So basically, there's a lot of forced exercise because most people here don't have cars. Parking is hard to find. So, with having to, people don't really live, I forgot the word, sedentary? I can't think of the word. But basically, those type of lifestyles where you just sit on your butt all day and do nothing. Like how we tend to do in America. We complain about, having to go outside, warm up our cars in Chicago, whatnot. Here in Japan, you have to brace the cold, and if it's raining, you have to brace the rain, with your umbrella, etc. You have to actually spend that time outside and walking to and from work. So if you think you hate driving to your job, imagine if you had to walk to the train, walk inside the train station to the platform for several minutes, then wait and stand on the train, and then walk, 15 minutes to your job, or, cycle there. So this is a lot of extra exercise that we don't normally get in America. And again, people normally have something very small and light for breakfast, which is very unhealthy. People are normally just eating a few, if even that, 100 calories for their first meal of the day. And as far as lunch goes, this varies too. Most people do tend to buy a bento from the convenience store, but if you don't buy a bento, a lot of people just have, onigiri. So it's not a matter of them eating healthy per se, but people here purposefully eat really small portions of food. And that brings me into the last thing that I was going to say, which is that Japan puts a lot of pressure on both men and women to be thin. And this is done multiple ways. For starts, if you are overweight, people will generally openly, make jokes, tease you, and talk about the fact that you're fat. This goes both for children and adults, which is understandable as a child going to school. Like in America, kids will naturally tease you about being overweight, but for adults, this is kind of like, something that is a sensitive topic in America. We don't, openly go up to adults and be like, oh, wow, you're such a fat fuck. Like, people don't do stuff like that. We don't joke about, like, oh, get some extra for the big guy. Like, we don't do that kind of stuff, especially if we're not very close to the person. It can be taken as extremely rude. But here in Japan, if you're fat, you just have to embrace it and get used to it. Fat people are used for comedy purposes only, pretty much on TV. It's very rare for an obese person or, plus size man or woman to have positive attention. Generally, if, there's something positive, about them on TV, it's because they're funny. But they're always going to poke fun at the fact that the person is fat. They can never just be, a comedian. They can never just be a celebrity, a model, whatever. They're only famous because they are fat. There are a few different names that comes to mind when I think of this. I forgot her name. I think Naomi Watanabe or whatever her name is. I think that's her name. She's somebody that comes to mind for that. So, again, the main reason why Japanese people are really thin here is not because the food is healthy. You would not believe how many calories there are in ramen and curry. They're very high in calories, and these are commonly eaten things. All of their street food is unhealthy. Okonomiyaki, yakitori, all of those different things, very high in calories. They're greasy, fat, greasy foods. Even although a lot of people here will act like American food is so nasty, fat, and greasy, Japanese food is too. And most of what they eat is carbs. They mostly eat carbs and greasy, high, oily, like foods that are fried. However, after they eat these things, they normally don't have much afterwards. And again, they spend so much time, moving around in their day-to-day lives. Of course, naturally, Japanese people are smaller as a whole. And I believe on average, genetically, they do tend to have higher metabolisms. But again, this has absolutely nothing to do with them being health conscious and eating fruits and vegetables and, doing regular exercise like push-ups and sit-ups. Most people don't do any of this stuff. The very last thing, Japanese people drink a lot of green tea, a lot of black tea. They drink a fair amount of coffee too. All things, of course, that are known to help with your metabolism, help you to burn calories, and to stop you from feeling so hungry, particularly green tea, which is good for other things about your skin and your body as well. I personally believe that drinking green tea really helped me to lose a lot of weight. I have no real proof that this is something that, did it on its own, but I do believe that by incorporating this into my diet, I never really drunk tea in America. It really did help me out a lot. It stopped me from feeling as hungry or as thirsty when normally, I'd have a juice or something, and, I could drink like a whole liter of juice by myself, but you can only drink so much tea. It's essentially just water. So, yeah, so drinking tea, feeling pressured by the media, again, it's not just your friends and family. The media, shows that being fat is such a horrible thing. They joke, they make fun of fat people. It's nearly impossible to find clothing for plus size people. So men who are big, women who are big, you're going to have a hard time finding clothing. There's a very limited selection of stores that you can shop at, most of which tend to be a bit pricey. Otherwise, your choices are pretty much shopping online. There's a few plus size retailers that Japan has, as well as, of course, you can get stuff shipped from overseas, from America or China even. So you're very limited with where you can shop at if you are very big, especially, if you're beyond a 1X, you're really going to have, it's practically impossible to find clothing here. So remember, Japanese bodies are built differently than ours. They carry their weight differently. And as other people have also said already, they're also more prone to different diseases too, or sicknesses, if you will, bodily problems for being overweight, even, just by a little bit per se. And to me, it's really no different than the same problem with African Americans. We are more prone to having high blood pressure and diabetes, I believe, than other ethnicities. I think this is pretty much the same thing with Asians. They have a very similar problem. And if you think like, oh, like all Asians are, so healthy, so thin, look at what happens when Asians are in America. They, can be just as big and as fat as any white, black, or Hispanic person. There's nothing special and unique about them or their culture or food and stuff they eat. The only difference is that Asians have, or Japanese people I should say, much more pressure. They believe that being extremely thin, lanky, if you will, is seen as very attractive here, so that people strive to be, and clothing sizes restrict you from, really getting too big. If you weigh too much, you will have a very hard time buying clothes here. I'm currently somewhere between a size 8 and a size 10, and it is very, very hard for me to find sizes that are bigger than what I'm currently wearing. Even where I'm at now, I have definitely gone into plenty of stores that had nothing that I can buy, but in general, I can fit most clothing here. I'm at the, the max size that they have. I normally wear a large here in Japan. So, yeah, keep that in mind. It's nothing to do with being Japanese. They're not healthy people, trust me. They eat the same garbage that we do. The difference is that, they normally, just like us really, they skip breakfast, or they have something very, very light and small. They tend to starve themselves much more frequently than we do in America. Even guys do. I told you I have plenty of friends, and I've had, plenty of dates where I've gone out with guys where, they'd buy me food. It wasn't nothing personal. We'd hang out the next day. Everything's just fine. But they were determined to not eat because they ate whatever earlier, or they wanted to save their calories for later type thing. So very different culture, I guess, in a way. There's a very high focus on drinking enough water. They really like using sports drinks like Pocari Sweat. And then, of course, green tea, black tea. They really drink a lot of teas and whatnot to hydrate themselves. It helps with your skin. It helps with your metabolism, etc. So, yes, there are some genetic factors to this, but for the most part, Japanese people tend to not be overweight, and they tend to look and be healthy because they don't really take care of themselves properly, per se. And what I mean by that is they starve themselves. They starve themselves to diet. The way that Japanese people maintain being thin is not through exercise. It's not through eating fruits and vegetables, which most people here do not eat at all because they are very expensive. But it is actually through starvation. They eat a lot of rice, a lot of green tea. They will go without having meat, etc. And oftentimes, I think in my opinion, most of the Japanese diet consists of having, fish and rice with very small amounts of vegetables kind of added for decoration and, of course, for nutritional purposes, along with, the pieces of fish that they have. But they eat very small portions of meat and, mostly carbs, rice and noodles, etc. Which mind you, these things are not really healthy for you, but they are very filling and can stop you from feeling full so fast. So, that's that. I know I made some people really angry with telling the truth, per se. But yes, most people here are thin because they've been bullied into it. Not saying that it's a bad thing necessarily. I believe that it's technically I can't really give an answer on that. I was gonna say I believe it is technically better to be thin than overweight, but I actually disagree. It's better to be a little overweight than to be too thin. And I'm not saying this for personal preferences. I'm saying this for your own health as a human being. But that's that. Japanese people are healthy. They're thin because they don't eat so much. They starve themselves. The media tells them to be thin. Your family pressures you to be thin. Your relationships, your partners, your friends, they pressure you to be thin. They'll make fun of you if you're not, in general, in a joking, friendly way. And you're limited with what you can buy here if you are big. So it personally makes you not want to be big. And then, of course, there's also health factors and risks for those who are fat. They're more likely to get things such as stomach cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure, etc. They have the same problems, I believe, that black people tend to have in America once they start, becoming obese and overweight. They also carry their weight differently. They're shorter in stature than most Americans. And not only are they shorter in stature, they, gain weight differently. So, for example, for most black people, if you are fat, your weight generally tends to go to your breasts, to your hips, to your butt. For Asian people, it generally goes to all the wrong places in general. So gaining weight doesn't normally look very good on you as an Asian woman. So normally Japanese girls prefer to stay thin because their bodies look much better in a slimmer state versus being plus size and heavy. Of course, every Japanese girl is built differently. They do not all have the same body shape, just like how all black women do not. So that's that. Those are my 2 cents on why I personally believe that Japanese people are so healthy. It's not a matter of actually being healthy, but a matter of different practices here as far as how they eat food when they feel that they are becoming fat, as well as the lack of clothing you can buy if you do become, big, and the different standard in beauty. In America, everybody wants to be thick, slim thick. Everyone is getting plastic surgery to get, wider hips, bigger butts, fuller lips. In Japan, it's pretty much the polar opposite. Being slim is still desirable amongst Japanese women, but they do admire and, look in awe of American and foreign women, how curvaceous their bodies are, but it's just not for them, is the way that they see it. So, thank you so much for watching my video. This is Comic95 the Savior. Please like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments that you would like to add, please leave them down below. Feel free to disagree. Give me your 2 cents. Why do you think that Japanese people are so thin? Thank you so much for watching. Please follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I really appreciate it. Give this video a thumbs up and let me know what you think. Thank you for watching. Bye.